Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of Fan Friction. It's Talking Tough with Ash and Joe. Woo! All right. So without further ado, it's Ashley Davis and Joe Davis. Woo!
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I'm sorry for the lame cheering.
We got to do what we got to do. Thank you so much, Jack, for that introduction. We're so happy that we could all get together with our host and all of our other TUFF family. Also joining us today, you know him as our resident troubadour and a challenger for the best TUFF house hugger. Please welcome Raul Rodriguez. Let's all give a hand for him.
Woo!
Hi, guys. Raul. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh.
And then, of course, our next panelist is the host of the DVD Bunker, and I would consider him the cool uncle of the TUFF fam. Let's please welcome Brian Hurst.
Woo! Thank you.
You know him as one half of Odd Shape Panel and also the tech whiz of House TUFF. Please welcome Tom Bennis.
Thanks. Oh, we're getting fictitious titles now. I'm the handsomest man in TUFF.
You can't self-apply the titles, Jack.
And our cat Tiblet wants to join the family, but her taste in movies is terrible, so she's not allowed. Our final panelist is the other half of the Odd Shape Panel and the new Fan Friction champion. Please welcome Kimber Barrett.
Woo!
And of course, you know the both of us. I'm Ashley.
I'm Joe.
And we're the hosts of BFF and also the frequent fact checkers from Fan Friction. And so we're just here to talk about all things Philly and Fan Friction Championship episode. So one of our first questions comes from Janine the Bean, Janine LC. She wanted to know, basically, since we already kind of pretty much know each other, what was something new that we each learned about each other once we met in person?
I learned that Joe is a vigorous hugger.
I am.
So I got a very large bear hug from Joe. And actually, Raul knows a thing or two about some hugging as well. But you got to have good hugging. You can't do the thing with the careful pat. You got to get in there and get it, get the hug. And I got that in Philly. So I did learn everyone's a good hugger.
I think the weirdest thing when you have internet friends is everyone's height.
Yes.
When you meet them.
Yeah, I assumed everybody was shorter and everybody but me and Kimber was taller than I anticipated.
I thought that Brian was taller than me, and that didn't happen.
I'm hardly taller than anybody, actually.
I learned Matt is possibly a figment of my imagination because he was barely there.
I've known Matt for 20 years, and I learned that Matt snores, by the way.
It's funny, when we were in the house and we were getting ready to settle in for the first night, I realized, we were all staying in an Airbnb in Philly, and I was invited to stay. My parents, I'm local, so my parents live nearby, and I was like, I could stay here and listen to Matt snore, or I could just drive 30 minutes to my parents' house because they're not there and enjoy comfortable sleeping. I'm going to do that.
So, Jack, what you're saying is
it kept me alert and allowed me to
at your parents' house.
I'm sorry, what?
So what you're saying, Jack, is we should have had a party at your parents' house.
Yes, exactly. They would have really appreciated that when they came home.
Well, I didn't notice anyone snoring because I was very heavy sleeping that weekend, so I didn't notice anything.
You're singing in your sleep, Raul, and it's adorable and
terrifying.
Terrifying, yeah. I thought like a jet. It was like.
And then also, guys that watching along live, if you have a question for us, you can just use our hashtag #ThisIsTuff, and then we'll address some of your questions live. But we also have some questions that were pre-selected. Moving on to our next question, what was your favorite moment of the trip outside of anything Fan Friction related? So, Jack, why don't you go first?
Ooh, you know what? I haven't been to Philadelphia in a little while. I'm local, so it was nice to actually go and see the city a little bit. And when we went out to dinner, I wish I could remember the name of it. Alicia, you can remind us in the chat. We went to a really great pizza joint. I love Philly pizza. I think it's just as good as New York pizza. And we had a really good pizza at that place. And it was fun to like discover a new joint in the city, like a couple blocks from the convention center that I'd never been to before.
All right, what about you, Brian?
I went to the con, and I got some autographs that I really wanted to get. I got to hit up Heather Langenkamp, Christy Swanson, Barry Bostwick, and I got to get my Tombstone DVD signed by Michael Rooker. So now it has Val Kilmer and Michael Rooker signatures. So that was probably, non-fan fiction related.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. What about you, Raul?
Non-fan fiction related. When me, Tom, and Kimber went to take photos with Baby in the Impala, and also
that was my thing.
And also meeting Camila Mendez from Riverdale, and also I took like 3 photos in the Iron Throne on Game of Thrones throughout the whole weekend.
Right.
And none of the guys told me, hey, you cannot take more photos anymore. They didn't even notice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and also
I thought the naked one you took at the end was a little much, but that's just me.
Yeah, but even though it's fan fiction related moment, but one of the best moments that I was gonna remember from that weekend is when we took the photo, the group photo, and then the speech that I gave after the photo.
I do remember that.
Very nice. Yeah, very nice. What about you guys, Tom and Kimber? What was y'all's favorite moments?
Hanging out with you guys. All the time that we got to spend with you outside of the Philly trip was the best. Just good conversation and having fun and playing some games and little road trips and such. I had a blast.
Kidnapping Tom.
Kimber doesn't speak for both of us.
Yes, I do.
I really enjoyed doing the Wonder Woman review with you guys. Not only is it the only critical review I've seen, but it was just so much fun to actually be in the same room and like actually do like the show as opposed to as everyone else sees us. Like we got to benefit doing that with the fan fiction, but it was nice to do it with another show too.
Yeah, I would say one of my favorite moments besides that really cool soda fountain that you could get drinks from at the convention was actually like doing the Odd Shape panel with you guys live. And like, when you're at home chilling, it's like so easy, but like when you have to be like on camera the whole time, it's like, man, it like so exhausted afterwards. So I don't know how y'all do that all the time.
Yeah,
I just realized that I don't want to go first anymore because I chose food as my favorite thing. And like now I could have dropped some really inspirational, oh, how about this moment? But instead all I have now is that I found a pizza place in Philly I've never been to.
But it was a pizza
good
we all got to eat together.
Exactly, and we had a fun time.
Yeah,
It was good.
But if you say food first, that's why I do the inspirational thing later.
No, we got to meet really cool people there. Like, I think we got to like tell some people about Janine's store because they asked about, I think, Brian's shirt. I forget which one he was wearing, but it was like one of her designs that they don't really have like a whole lot of shirts for that character.
Black Bolt.
Okay.
It was the Black Bolt.
Oh yeah,
shirt.
my Black Bolt shirt. That's right.
But one of my favorite moments was from our Cards Against Humanity night. It was the fat bald man from the internet.
Oh, that's right. Fat bald man from the internet.
I also, and Ashley brought it up, I really enjoyed doing Odd Shape panel that Monday after. And then from non-TUFF related, getting to meet a couple of character designers was really awesome. Robert Liefeld, and I can't remember the other guy's name, but he's the lead character designer for Archer, and he actually plays one of the characters on the show, and I feel really crummy that I can't remember his name. So
the focus. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna read it because I see it. Joe, your thing, your cam is kind of picking up the sun behind you instead of you guys.
I think it's not just that. It's I put the screen too close and it screwed it up.
There you go. Now you're locked in.
Yeah.
So they're agreeing with you in the chat, Jack. Nolan says pizza inspires you, and Delisha said food is life.
And it is.
And it's pizza. How can you go wrong with pizza?
You really can't.
Also, it was a great pizza. I think it was called Gino's or Giao's. I don't remember. It was with G.
It wasn't any New York pizza.
You mean an Italian joint in Philadelphia that served pizza?
David Bowman
is saying that Raul singing "Happy Birthday" to her in Spanish and English really made her tear up, and that was her favorite moment.
Oh, thank you, Delisha.
David Bowman in the chat posted a poll over Philly cheesesteaks, provolone or whiz. So, and I imagine he means cheese whiz. Really
I would hope so.
Really hope so. Hey, if anybody watching the show wants to go vote in his poll, go do it. It's pretty.
I just voted for provolone.
It's provolone. It's provolone.
Yeah, I just voted provolone.
I live here and it's provolone.
We're Texan and it's provolone.
Yeah.
Cheese whiz is for garbage people. I'll say it right now.
All right, guys. Another question that we got was from TJ Dex. As our cat is playing with something in the background. It's always a fun time here. That's why we have so many cat outtakes on our own show. He wanted to know everyone's prep process. So like for fighters, like how do you like prepare for the show? And then Jack, like maybe like how you come up with the questions, or if you want to share some of your fighting insight because you fought as well. Let's go ahead and start with Brian this time. What's your process for prepping for in general or the specific fight?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, like, usually, you know, we know some of the questions and prep, but this was like an all speed round kind of situation. So you just kind of got to open up your mind. And, you know, I don't want to give away the kayfabe or peek behind the curtain here, but the technical side was trying to get everything set up. Me and Kimber just were hanging out. So it's like all the rivalry and stuff's off the, you know, I mean, we chilled out the whole time before the match. Then you come down to the end and you're there together again. It was just awesome.
Nice. And then what do you do like on a normal
to hang out?
What do you on a normal show where we get the questions in advance? What kind of style do you go with for prep?
Well, that's more of like an extensive, you know, set of notes. Now, not extensive by some people's standards, but by comparison to what you do for a speed round where you're just off the cuff. You know, I always have something prepared, and I try like counter arguments to my movie too, so you can prep something in advance for that, or at least have an idea in case you hear something, and watch as many of the movies as you can. But yeah, like try to watch everything. I usually focus more on the movies that are part of my argument, so I know those ones inside and out. If I get around to the competing movies, if I have time for that, or if it's something I'm really unfamiliar with, you know, I'll try to make that happen. But like I said, I start with my arguments and then I work my way out to counters and everybody else's stuff.
Awesome. Tom and Kimber, why don't y'all go next with the same question?
Sure, I'm basically right where with what Brian was saying. Like usually I take a little more extensive notes when we have the prep time and stuff, but with something like this, mostly I was concerned about like relaxing and not getting too stressed out. And I think even on the video of the fight, you can see that the camaraderie between me and Brian is evident. I think like getting in the right mindset and being relaxed is super important, or else you just blank out when you try to think of stuff in speed rounds, which has definitely like gotten me before. But I was
I'm wearing the shirt.
Trying to not do that this time. How about you?
I've had to mentally hone my skills. As you all know, I'm protecting a pretty good lose streak right now. But I just got it in my head that it's just for fun. It's not a big deal. Like the less I stress about it, the better I feel during the fight. So like you said, stress is a big component. But I also want to say know your host, because you'll see a lot of us when we're fighting things, we always try to steer it a little bit towards Jack, and especially
or whoever's judging.
Well, yeah, but that's why I'm saying no.
Yeah.
But you know, if your movie has a children's element or something like that, you can try to throw it to Jack. It may fail. It may fail. But still, know your host, because all in all, he is the ultimate decider on your.
And you never know when something funny that you say is going to actually just stick with me the whole time. And so sometime like just saying the right thing is overrides everything else.
And it's infuriating, but it's good entertainment.
Zombie titties.
Zombie titties.
All right. Raul, what about you? What was your prep process or in general?
Well, even though some of you know, I always choose the answer and I think of it, but I never write it. I always write all of my notes like an hour before we go live on every Sunday. I don't usually do a lot of notes like you. Actually, remember the first time you made like 8 pages of notes?
Oh yeah, it was tons, and that was when we didn't even know what the other fighters' choices were.
And also with the counter arguments, I prepare like 30% of it, and the other I always do like improvise during the fight. That's the way that I do it. But I hope that in the next season that I'm gonna prepare more, because I need a win already by like 5 fights in, and I haven't won yet. And also, like Tom just said about the going in favor of your host, I choose vacation, and Jack didn't give me the point. And he lost
it doesn't always win.
So everyone future fighters, that's also is not guaranteed.
Joe, what about you? What's your process like?
Well, for starters, there's a severe lack of one. For the episodes where we pick stuff ahead of time, I tend to try and gut reaction, like what feels best for my answers, what I think I can actually argue worth a crap. And Tom brought up a very important part of my process, and it's know your host, as well as know your audience and know who you're fighting against. Because if you can say something or do something that will trip them up, then it gives you a severe advantage. That goes more into my speed round tactics than anything else. But for this fight in particular, it was just a lot of like trying to like empty everything out of my head. So I have plenty of, for lack of a better term, RAM to pull from, like get that system memory ready so I can just think as fast as possible. Really hard to do for me, but I did what I could. So yeah.
Yeah, for me this time, because
on that audience. Okay. Real quick on that audience point, that's such a good thing for this, where we had a live audience for the first time ever. That was great. Like, what an uphill battle for a known heel such as myself to sit in front of people who are like actively rooting for me to lose. Like, they just can't wait. They can't wait to hear Jack say Kimber's name. They want it so bad.
So what you're saying is Kimber is the people's champion.
Yep, for sure. 100%.
Oh, there's no doubt about that she's the people's champion.
At that first point, there's like dead silence in the room. Like, it was just a hard stare.
Well, opposite effect on me, Brian. It was really giving me life to have everyone cheering me on so hard. So on the opposite side of that, thank you guys. I love you all.
Eric's on the flank.
Yeah.
Going back to the process, like for me, because I'm such like I'm the one that's known for taking like pages and pages of notes over everything. If I'm fighting, I try to watch every movie I can. I'll rewatch movies I haven't seen in a while for my own choices. So I was super nervous about this, and I was like walking around the convention hall thinking like, okay, like if Jack asked this question, like what movie would I choose? And that's why I had National Treasure in my head, even though like there's been a lot of controversy about that being a road trip movie, but I picked it like in my mind as, well, that's a movie that's set in Philadelphia. If Jack asked what's the best movie in Philadelphia, I know that movie a lot better than I know any Shyamalan or Rocky. So, and then when Raul said National Lampoons, like that just kind of clicked in my brain and I just went with it. Nobody challenged me. So I was like, okay, I'm going with this. I have no clue how I still won that round, but hey, whatever.
It's all about the arguments.
Yeah, so yeah, I was definitely very nervous, and like I've noticed for my style that, you know, when we're live, especially with other people in the room, like I get really nervous and I can't form my words as well as I do like if we're just like casually like talking about something, you know, with friends or whatever. So like that was really nerve-wracking as well, like having the audience there, like, oh my God, like they're gonna all think I'm dumb or something. And I was kind of relieved when I got kicked out the second round. I was like, okay, now I can just enjoy this. And so
no, you did an awesome job, though.
Yeah.
You always did a great job.
Yes, you did. You hadn't even seen that movie either.
Nope.
Just got it. Jack, what about your process? How did you come up with the questions, or why don't you share a little insight into that?
Well, as far as fighting goes, I do a lot of when I get the questions, I never go with my first answer necessarily. I take a lot of time and try to figure out if this is the right answer. And I also try to know my opponents and what they might pick. When I did the live one in LA, I was thinking, oh, I got an age advantage, so I can go further back in time than they could, and they're more likely to pick something in the 20 years they've been alive, and I can go beyond that. So it's a lot, there's a lot of strategy involved for me when I'm picking my movies, and I think I'm best before the speed round, as evidence has clearly shown. I have not yet won my own show or the real show, so and it's all speed round problems, but so I don't access the information really as fast. It's how you file the information in your head for me. And when the speed round question comes up, if it doesn't gel with that, I have a lot of trouble. So that's why I'm not going to speed round. But so that's my prep. And then as far as the show goes, we give our fighters usually the entire week to choose their answers. So that means I have to have the questions at least ready a week before the show. I almost always know sort of where I want to go, but I tend to do the questions within like a 12-hour frame before I give them to the fighters. And part of the reason that I do that is some of the questions are timely. My first question this season, in the second half of the season, has been news related. So I wanted to make sure that I was, something happened over the weekend that I didn't write that question before the weekend, because then I have to write it again. So, I have to write all the questions, and then I also have to write, I write all the questions, but I also have to write the follow-up question, the speed round question, based on that question. So there's a little extra work there, and I don't always write the speed round questions before I give them out to the fighters, because sometimes I think of a really good follow-up based on the answers that you gave. So I want to make sure that the show is as interesting as possible. So, and then when it comes to the fans help me out a lot, because the middle question, the second half of the season, has all been fan-based, and I will tweak those questions, but people have been giving me really great questions. Eric Monroe, of course, Kim Hanley, Eric Assemacher had one this season, Janine had one this season, Ashley always submits some, and I think I used, one of the episodes I used two of Ashley's questions. So it really helps too to get inspiration from, like, what does the crowd that comes in here every week want to see. Nolan gave a question this season, so that helps a lot for my middle one. And then the mystery fight is always my favorite to write, because I am trying to trip up my contestants. I want to give them a challenge. It's a 2-point question, so I want to make sure it's as fun for them to do as possible, stuff like that. So most of the hardest work that I do is probably in crafting the questions. I pride myself on having decent questions. I get a lot of feedback that says my questions are good, so I feel that's my sense of pride. You guys are basically battling on ideas that I helped create, so by asking the questions. So it really means a lot to me that every week the fighters bring it, and they find cool ways to think of those questions and make them their own. So so that's really my process there. And then when I'm actually judging, I take lots of notes as we go. I'm giving points out. I'm listening for, you'll notice when during the show, my head's always like this. And that's because I'm looking down at my piece of paper. I'm listening. I'm taking the visual out of it so I can focus almost entirely on hearing. So I'm listening to the fight, writing down notes, and then I do try the best I can to judge as fairly as possible. And most of the time, I'm pretty good at it. But when Tom's on, I specifically pick everyone else to make sure that he can't win the show. I give him one because he's real. Exactly. He cries if you don't give him one. So you got to give him 1 point, and then the rest of them go to the other people who deserve it much more.
I was about to say this really nice thing about Jack, but
Jack, I'm going to point out, your questions are fantastic.
Jack in the chat, actually, he says your questions are as beautiful as your facial hair, Jack.
Oh,
Jack does have pretty amazing facial hair.
Who said that? Thank you, person. Nolan, thank you, Nolan.
My thing, quiet. My thing is, Jack, your questions are always fantastic when I'm not fighting. Every time I fight, the questions are garbage, and I hate you. However, and all the questions were fantastic for this speed round thing we did at Philly, except for the whole Scream Queen thing, because I hate you.
Oh, speaking of which, I wrote those questions the night before. And my theme was to something about Philly, something about being there, something about the convention. So all of my questions had something to do with people we met, things we saw in Philly, things we did in Philly, stuff like that. And I think it worked out rather well. I think, except for the question about Buffy, Kimber. I think we did really well with all of my questions. So.
That was so cool how it went out, though. I don't feel like anyone felt like they lost because they didn't have knowledge in that topic. I feel like that happened with like I think that happened like two times.
Yeah, and I felt like every answer. I think that the right person didn't win each round. I think I think everyone was fairly judged in that one. I think it was well judged throughout. I'm sure Kimber agrees, but
yeah, I just wanted to say too. Jack just mentioned yes, he was writing those questions the night before, and we were just trying to play Cards Against Humanity, and we wanted Jack to come play with us because Jack was, feel like he was still on work mode, and thankfully so because the show went off without a hitch. But that's where we got to see a really nice nugget of Spicy Joe. When you're writing your questions, and he leaned into your ear, and he's like, "Can you just concentrate on the game, please?" One of my favorite moments from the trip. I've talked about it like 6 times.
Hey, I'm working, man. I got to put on a good show.
Alrighty, so we kind of talked about the first panel. I did have a question. Like, you actually drew that randomly. That wasn't like a setup to have us be reflective of our very first episode because it was me.
No, completely random. The day of, I'm sitting there and we're getting, before we actually set up all the tech, I was just sitting there and I wrote everybody's name on a hat. And then I threw them in my cap, and I was just like, you know what, I might as well just draw them now and see who I get. And it just happened to be the first episode. And I think it was kind of fitting, too, that it was Kimber was the last one to come in. Like, I think you can't craft the show better than that, but it was all random. Every single thing. The order was completely at the pull of a hat. So it just worked out that way. But I liked how it worked out. I thought it was really cool the way it worked out.
Awesome. So we already talked about the first round a little bit. Let's go look at the second round where you asked about what was like John Cusack's best movie. And then you talked a little bit about it in the show about how you met him. But was there any other choices that you had for like an actor question, or like why specifically John Cusack out of everybody that was at the con?
I had 3 people I really wanted to meet at the con. He was one of them. I also wanted to meet Uhura, Nichelle Nichols, which I did, and Ralph Macchio. I got to meet him. I know this is a goofy sounding like 3 people, but those are the 3 people I that have had impact on me in their movies growing up. So when I thought about all of the people I met, and Ralph Macchio doesn't have a wide filmography, and Nichelle Nichols is really known for being in Deadpool and Star Trek. So I said, well, like, of those 3 people, because I was going to pick from one of them, I was like, of those 3 people, John Cusack has the widest variety of films. So he really gives us a better choice selection of answers. So that's why I went with him.
Nice. And then, of course, that's the panel where Joe and I had to face off, and I actually rewatched the footage. I don't know if anyone else has done that, but you can see like Joe doing this thing that he often does to try to like psych me out, where like I'm talking and he's like slowly leaning over Tom to like intimidate me, which I could feel. So I knew the moment that you called his name, like, well, I'm out, because he is like so challenging to fight. Like, we'll do practice fights randomly initiated by me, which I always lose because he comes up with all these random, like, wild and crazy arguments that I would never think of. So I knew I was out.
I'm kind of like Sam, but I have my stuff together a little better.
You did really well in that fight, Joe. It was a really good fight for you. I was really impressed.
Because it was all speed round.
So, Tom, during round 2, like, how confident were you feeling about your chances for getting the belt with, like, Joe coming in? And, like, you had some pretty strong arguments in the previous round and that round as well.
Yeah, I was worried about Joe's pick because it is iconic, and I did make it into, like, oh, it's the butt of so many jokes now, and blah, blah, blah. But, like, it did concern me at first, so I thought I'd go in a different direction. And I thought that would at least keep me safe, even if I didn't think it would be the worst answer, because I didn't think anyone would be able to tear it down, because I wasn't sure if anyone had saw it. And I genuinely really like Grand Piano. Like, Elijah Wood and John Cusack's chemistry in that is really good. But I watch that. That's what I would
good.
win.
It's good.
It's tweets from you if you watch Grand Piano.
If I may interject for a moment, Jack, what is Nichelle Nichols known for again?
Uhura. And her cameo in Deadpool.
What was that cameo?
What's that?
What was that cameo?
Well, she was the roommate in Deadpool.
No, she wasn't.
Yes,
Fact check.
That's Leslie Uggams.
It's Leslie Uggams.
Was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, I thought that was a show. Oh, well, then I see. Good thing I'm not fighting today, and that Joe won't be fighting for quite some time. No.
And you're fired.
I
Hey,
hope
look,
Jack.
this is why there's
Michelle Nichols. Like, I loved you in Deadpool.
you know, thankfully I didn't say that. I thought she wasn't. I thought that was her. Wow. So I'm glad that I didn't say I loved you in Deadpool, Miss Nichols.
That would be.
I'm sure that's happened to her before.
But I did not do
She
that.
just politely nod and then like motion to security to take you away.
Yeah, she's like, this asshole needs to get out of here right now.
Nice.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
This
is why, by the way, this is why Joe and Ash are fact checkers, and I just judge because you could say anything, and as long as it sounds right.
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't know who it was that played her off the top of my head, but I knew it wasn't her because I'm like, the internet would have made a way bigger deal if it was Michelle Nichols playing Blind Owl.
It looked like her. It looked like her.
Really? Really?
Yes. Until I met her, and then she looked really different in person.
Right.
So anyway.
Moving on to the fact that people do look different. Is there any good comments in the chat about the fight, or maybe we could check our Twitter hashtag, see what people are saying?
The last I checked the hashtag, the last question that I saw pop up. Oh, we have David Bowman popping in again. Everyone loves a good bad guy. So you got some love for being a great villain.
Who, me?
Brian.
Oh,
No,
Brian.
Oh.
I mean, in my world, yes.
All right, let's move on to our third panel. Or sorry, Tom, if you have something.
No, I was just gonna say no questions directed at us in the chat, but everyone just seems to be having a great time.
Hey, that is all that matters. If everyone's having a great time, I know I'm having a great time talking to all of our friends here. Third panel was Tom, Kimber, and Joe, and this was the Michael Rooker question. And could they have chosen one of the Guardians Michael Rooker roles? Because you had just said that it was like the best performance. So
yeah,
could
I would have allowed it. I think about that when I'm writing the question. I'm just like, there's an obvious answer here, and will they pick it? But then I'm like, you know what? You still have to fight for your obvious answer. So I'm gonna let people answer and let the argument decide.
We couldn't because we both would have picked that.
I think when you said the question, you said other than Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, I may have, but yeah.
I rewatched the fight and he did not say that.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
He didn't. Yeah, because I rewatched it this morning. I was like, maybe he did say that, and that wasn't anywhere. And Joe had picked Belko Experiment, and then I was thinking why isn't anybody saying Guardians of the Galaxy? Why?
I think I even mentioned it in the intro of the question. I don't remember, but.
Yeah. And no one also mentions Slither.
Yeah, I after the fact that because I was like, well, how can I go back? And I went James Gunn, and then I went, oh, Slither. So
he's in every James Gunn movie.
He really is.
So for speed rounds.
And so then you just changed it to Hollywood's best Michael, and you gave Joe an immunity. But Joe, I wanted to ask you, why did you risk your immunity to fight in that round?
Because it's fun. And that's the whole thing. It was to put on a good show. And I figured if I was going on to the next round anyway, I'd risk it to give myself some extra clout, I guess I could say, for the next round, as well as some extra intimidation for whoever I was going up against, going I don't need some paltry handout. I can fight my own battle and win. It was a gambit, and it worked.
Yeah, he went through. Yeah. You made it.
It would have worked better if there wasn't some dumb question about Scream Queens or something.
So that was a great question and super appropriate to the theme.
You're super inappropriate, Brian. Shut up.
All right, gentlemen. We don't have to like the same things.
A little behind the scenes. That question was suggested by Tom, and I wasn't going to use it. That's why I had an extra question, because I was like, if Tom's in here because he suggested this question, I'm not going to ask it. And then he just left. I was like, oh, here comes the Scream Queen question. So if he made it the whole thing, I wouldn't have used it at all.
Tibia burn. Anyway, we're jumping ahead.
Tom and Kimber, what was it like to face off against each other?
I was gonna say it was interesting because later on we were talking about the because did you fight on the Michael one too? You did, right?
Here's the thing, because I was gonna go Michael Keaton Batman, and then I'm like, oh no, because the hard thing about fighting as a couple is that you have all this inside knowledge on the other person, and it's not really fair to use that. So it's really hard avoiding it. So I was like, oh, well, okay, Michael Keaton and then blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, oh, but if I put Michael Keaton on the board, she's just going to go Beetlejuice.
Yeah,
like, it was like,
which I would have done.
So it was hard making a pick just to even start the question. Then when the actual fight came, I couldn't be like, I know for a fact you like this better, or that, you know what I mean? That's not fair. And so it's rough. I don't like fighting, Kimber. I don't do it in real life.
All's fair in love and war. So you get that crap together and you bring it next time.
All's fair in fan friction. I've actually wanted these guys know I've actually wanted to do the couples fight for quite some time. I think I like I love the fact that there was an Ash and Joe fight. I love the fact that there was a Kimber and Tom fight. I thought that was great.
Yeah,
couples fight, tag team edition.
Yeah, tag team would be fun. And I think we talked about doing that once, but for whatever reason, it was just something that we couldn't work out logistically for this season. But I would love to do that in the future, or like even like a showrunner show off if we could like somehow bring Brian, and if he can find Matt. You know, I would love to see how Matt's
awesome.
Matt's
might be here now. Could be here right now.
You could. You wouldn't be able to find him.
You know. And this would be so Brian to have it planned where Brian knew this was going to happen. Brian's like, he could be here now. And you see Matt slowly rise from over his shoulder and then slowly sink back into the background.
From over his shoulder for under the table.
Oh.
Why can't it be both?
Sorry.
Why can't it be both?
But I digress.
Yes. All right, and then we got to the infamous horror question, and I could just see the look on Joe's face when you asked that. It's like, oh no, we're going home. Because that is definitely not our strong suit. So, Brian, what was running through your mind when you joined the final panel to see who would be facing in the speed round?
Well, yeah, you know, I got to be in the peanut gallery through all the rounds that came before it, and each one of those, I was just like excited to see people get eliminated. I was like, anybody I don't have to fight is awesome. You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't matter who's up there. It's like a murderer's row. So I was just like knocking off sharks. I was like, all right, sweet. So now I'm down, and the name of the game was just survival. I didn't have to have the best answer. I just had to have not the worst answer. So that was the name of the game for this round.
Yeah. Just have an answer, I think, is a more appropriate way to put it.
I felt more comfortable this round. The second the question came out of your mouth, I was like, I know I want Jamie Lee Curtis. So I tried to like get that out of my mouth as quick as I could because I was so worried someone else was going to say it because that would have derailed me completely. But I liked this question. I was happy with it.
I really liked it too. And my honorable mention would have probably, had I not met Heather Langenkamp that day, I probably would have gone with Nev Campbell, maybe.
That's a good one.
I know I would have been equally as in the same boat as Joe because that's just not my genre, and I would have chosen the exact same character and actress. But Joe, how were you? What did you feel when you had that question?
In the broad gamut of it all, like my whole as soon as the question was finished, I just in my mind held "Hello, darkness, my old friend," because I just couldn't think of an answer to save my life. And as long as it took me to think of the character that I thought of, it then that's literally when it popped in my head. It's not like it popped in earlier and I was like, no, I don't know the actress's name, et cetera, et cetera. As soon as the character came to mind, I'm like, can I do this? Because it's the best I can do.
Yeah.
Raul, you were going to say something? Raul, what were you going to say? You were going to make a comment earlier?
Oh, that when Joe was, I still remember Joe trying to think about it, and I was with my mind, Nev Campbell, Jamie Lee Curtis, the mom of Jamie Lee Curtis in Psycho. I forget her name.
Janet Leigh.
I was like, there's so many to choose from. And then when he chose the girl from Pink
Hellraiser.
I was like, I love horror, and I have never seen one of the Hellraiser movies, so I didn't knew about it also.
I actually like the Hellraiser movies, so you had a shot at that round because I'm familiar with them. So
yeah,
but not really.
So Raul, who would you have gone with if you couldn't have Jamie Lee Curtis? Would you have gone Nev Campbell?
Oh yes, I love Scream. I love Scream even more than Halloween. I would have defended Nev Campbell perfectly. If Joe had a chance, like a lifeline, to choose another fighter to fight for him, I would have fight for him, Dominic Campbell.
Aw. Lifelines. That's an interesting concept. I don't know. Some people might get mad about that. It's like, well, he didn't really fight. Da da da. What
Tom,
about you?
You were going to say
Tom?
something too.
Yeah, what were you gonna say?
I know I stepped out when you revealed the question at this time because I was, I just lost and I was, basking in it. And I had come back into the room and then I had realized what you were fighting and I just sat down because like Kimber's like fight, just because I like hearing Kimber talk about what she's passionate about. It was cool that you like her like there's some good fights. I wish we had a real like Joe's psychological thriller Doctor Who fight, like this horror fight. Like we've had some really interesting ones, and right away I was hooked. Like I was mad that I missed the first 5 seconds.
I still talk about that Doctor Who round. It's the only. If it wasn't factually accurate, I think I would have given Joe that point just for that argument alone was just so. And he went with it, But anyway, that's another episode.
All right. Any final thoughts on this round before we go to our two-person versus match, Brian v. Kimber?
Let's do it.
Yes.
All right. So the first question was about the whole Scooby thing, and I've never seen Buffy the Vampire Slayer either. So definitely a good advantage that neither of them had seen that show and could pick something, because you couldn't like plan something better than like that moment where it's like, well, now I got to throw this question out.
And I'm glad I had a spare because that would have been, because I just wasn't, I should have had like a lot more questions, but because I wrote them all beforehand, I was thinking, oh, this is perfect. I just need this one extra question. I'm good. Yeah. So it's just like, and I'm like, who hasn't seen Buffy? Oh, these two. Fantastic.
You're like,
I did get my actual Buffy movie signed though that weekend.
Oh yeah, that wasn't the question, but congratulations.
My Buffy.
Well, we started doing TV, so I was like, I need a TV question. And there were actual other members of the cast of the TV show there. Spike was there. Emma Caulfield was there. So there were other members. So I was like, oh, this would be great. We finally can throw in a little TV fight here near the end. And nope, no, we can't. Can't do it.
And then you chose what was Jesse Eisenberg's worst movie, and I don't remember if I remember at the time. I was like, this would be like a good moment to throw in like a whole like psych. Now it's his best. So I thought that was a brilliant pull. What was going through your mind, Kimber, when you now had to say a Batman v Superman was Eisenberg's best role versus his worst?
I was a little terrified, and I was definitely salty about that because I was trying to think so hard of like first one was or whatever. So when he switched it up on me, because he was like in so many good movies, and I was like, man, like I couldn't have said like like it just threw me off. And but it was fun. I'm glad I got to fight it. It was a different one.
Yeah, you handled it really well. I was really proud of you. I was really proud that you were able to like turn it around really well, because I know like sometimes in the past you've said like I have trouble fighting for things that don't align with like what I like, and so I was like, oh no, Kimber, like she's gonna be down, and then you handled it really well. So I was proud of you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go to Brian first, and I'll try and.
Yeah, Brian, what was running through your mind? You had picked American Ultra previously, and so now you had to say that was his best. What were you thinking?
One of the things that interested me originally about American Ultra was that it seemed to be cast like with actors that nobody liked. So that's what I remembered about the movie, was the crazy weird cast. So I was like, I'm just gonna try to find nice things to say about this cast. And like I said, it wasn't luckily a horrible movie. It was just kind of a meh movie. And so I guess I had a couple things to work with. I was just scrambling. You know what I mean? You're just trying to even remember what's in the movie. Like, okay, try to pick a few positive things that you liked about it.
Nice, Jack. What were you?
But
gonna
yeah,
say?
I didn't have.
I was
I'm
writing that question, out, and I'm like, okay, Jesse Eisenberg. I saw Jesse Eisenberg there, so we could do a what's the best movie for Jesse Eisenberg? Well, The Social Network, and then something else is going to be probably coming up. Well, I could do it the other way. I could do what is the worst movie? Well, it'll be BVS and something else. And then I was like, we've never done a twist question before. Like, it's never happened. And I'm like, they won't be ready for this. This is a fantastic, whoever's sitting there, those two people, I'm going to hit them with this. And I was so excited to do that, to do a trick question, because I was like, no one's prepared for it. No one sees it coming. You're going to answer the question as truthfully as possible. You're not going to strategize. And then it's just going to be flipped. And I thought it worked out fantastic. Like, no one had a bad argument. Both the fights were really good. Kimber's argument was strong. So was Brian's. So it worked out as best as it could. And the audience reaction was fantastic.
Yes.
Like, the audience
God, that
was so good. They made that moment
cold. The whole room just went cold.
It was so great. I love it. So that was the best part.
That was a really good round. And then the next one was we got to throw in the whole character fight where everybody had to pick a character first. And Kimber had picked Moriarty. Brian picked Jay Sherman from The Critic. And then you threw this question at them: pitch a Rocky movie remake with them as Rocky. And I misunderstood what you said the first time. Like, I thought you meant like Rocky Horror Picture Show, because that's usually like a big con thing. I was like, yeah, I know. He's looking at me.
We're in Philly.
We're in
Philly.
I don't.
We ran the Rocky steps last year.
When I heard Rocky, I thought of like, Rocky Horror. That's what I think when people say Rocky in my circle. That's what they're talking about. So I was thinking, oh, I'm so glad I'm not in this round, because I would have like so failed. And I was like, how would you even do that? Like, why would you pick that as the character? Why wouldn't you recast like Frankenfurter, a major character? And I'm like, oh, that Rocky. This makes so much more sense now. So yeah, one of the times I was so glad I wasn't fighting, because I would have made a little.
Yeah, kind of like that time I thought Blues Brothers 2000 was Blues Brothers. And by the time I realized I was just going to fight the whole damn thing as Blues Brothers, because that is the only movie I know. And just sink with the ship.
So, Brian, like, as soon as you heard the question, you had Jay Sherman, this animated thing, what was running through your mind as you're trying to like come up with your pitch?
Well, I got the advantage, or maybe disadvantage, to overthink it while Kimber was talking. You know what I mean? Because she had to go first. So I just think what's mostly difficult is just, I think we've blurred the line in recent years of what a remake or a reboot or a sequel, or you know what I mean. They've got, so I like, whereas my movie had elements of Rocky, it wasn't a straight up enough remake of it. It was more like a meta parody movie. So I thought it was a fun idea, but I didn't begrudge losing that point. It is what it is.
I thought you're pretty, and you did have a little time to prep for it, but I thought your pitch was actually pretty inspired and sounds like something that they would have done like on The Critic if it was still around. Like, I could totally see that as like
what I thought. I was like
multi-part episode.
I was drawing on my knowledge of the show The Critic, and like the way they use Sylvester Stallone in that show and how he's perceived in the context of that show. And I was like, how can I like extrapolate that into a movie that is also kind of follows the Rocky formula of the fighter and the underdog and so yeah. It was fun. I still enjoy that pitch. I would still watch that movie.
Sorry. I remember watching the crowd during this, and the moment you were like, oh, but he gets the Rocky 2 ending. Oh no.
Yeah, I remember.
I had a lot of like just really trying to not stop talking before the bell rings type moments. I was just like really pushing myself to like keep talking until I ran out of time. And this was like definitely one of the things I was dealing with in this round, because we had 2 minutes, I believe. And that is so long to have to like try to pitch something that you had 0 time to talk about. And like, I picked a character because he is charismatic and he's smart and he's interesting, and none of those things are really what Rocky is so much. So I had to like really try to make him fit into this, and I mean, I was happy with what I went with, but I thought for sure I was like donezo when the question was announced. It was a rough one.
I think if Brian's answer was a little bit more had that like there was just something about Brian's answer that yours was steady enough, right? It just had the elements of your character, and it stayed consistent enough, and to get you, he had to just knock your socks off basically.
Yeah.
And I just didn't feel like his pitch was strong enough, and so I'm like, Slow and Steady's winning this race. I had to give it to you on that one.
It's like Brian could have done really well if he had that 1-2 like combo comment, like just one sentence is all it could have taken for Brian's, because Kimber's was solid all the way around, but Brian.
If only I could have been more clever. Jeez.
Yeah, basically, Brian. Basically, if you were smarter, you could do it.
No, but
Smarter and better, Brian. God.
Yeah, but like I said, when Jack was asking us of what would we think about the fight, I said, I really like Brian's pitch, but that's the thing, because Jack asked a remake, and he was doing a meta thing. So a remake and a meta, they don't mix. And so that's why I got so confused. It's like a 21 Jump Street, but 21 Jump Street grabbed that concept, didn't remake the whole show. So that's why Brian went to 21 Jump Street instead of going straight remake, even though it was a great pitch. So that's why I also re-asked Jack what was the question.
And there's something else that's important to mention too. You could see the evolution of Kimber as a fighter in that round, because like old Kimber, like first starting out Kimber may have just like given up on that question, been just like, oh my God, this is like ridiculous. Moriarty is, you know what, this question sucks. Like, I don't want to be a part of this, you know, F you all. But like, she didn't, like, right? She just bucked up, she figured it out, and she had a pitch. And that's like, you could see like she's gotten better and better at that throughout. And I think that's one of the reasons too, that she took the round. She didn't give it up. She stayed up the whole time and fought it out, even if she didn't think she was going to win it. And that was really cool.
Yeah, thanks. I really wanted it. I was like hungry for a win. I think Brian was feeling that too, going into it.
I'm a little curious before we move on, and not, you know, take out the question, like, what is like your go-to character for like these character fights? Like, Tom, is like there like a character, like when Jack asked this question, like you always go with this one, or like what would you have picked, not knowing it was going to be a Rocky
do you have a character
pitch?
Yeah, it's ping pong.
Sorry.
I usually pick Tyrion Lannister, but I did not this time.
Oh, I would have chosen Dean Winchester. He won't have been perfect for Rocky. I would have tried to make that pitch.
All right. What about you, Joe? I think I know what your answer is, but
I'm pretty sure you know what my answer is. I would have chosen the dude.
That would have been a very interesting Rocky pitch. And see, mine would have been weird too. Like, I don't know what I would have done, because I always go with Liz Lemon. So like Liz Lemon, like in the Rocky role, like I don't know if I would have been like clever enough to pull something out like Brian did with the whole meta thing. So I would have been like really stuck at that moment. Jack, do you have a go-to character that you would pick for this kind of question?
I used it for my first one, and that was MacGyver. I don't know who I would have gone with if I had to spontaneously pick another one, but MacGyver was always I'll pick him first, and I got a chance to. So I'll have to give that some thought, actually. I don't have a go-to anymore. I used him.
All right, and so it was down to the wire, because, Kimber won a point, Brian had won a point, and so, deadlocked. And so you had to go with the third question, where you had them pick a best actor or actress who appeared at Wizard World. And so before we talk about that, Eric Monroe wanted to know what was going through Kimber and Brian's mind before Jack read that last question. It's tied up. What were your thoughts? Let's go to Brian first.
I just, like I said, I was just nervous. You just have that nervous energy going. Everybody's like all anticipating the final question. And like, I knew it was time. My run was coming to an end. It was time for like a big epic finale here. You can kind of like feel it building up, So that.
I felt like I was like picking up steam this whole fight. I thought I started out slower, and that like I was getting energy as I was going along. In no small part, attributing to the crowd and Eric Monroe in particular, breathing life into me. So I was like having this awesome like second wind moment where I'm like, holy crap, like it's the last fight. I'm fighting with Brian right now. Like, I'm feeling good. I've been doing okay. So I was like in a good spot, but we were just having fun, I think. Like, it was such a fun environment to be playing the game with everybody there. So I think, like, regardless of what happened, I think everybody was just having a really good time experiencing our show, like, in person.
The crowd really helped. It was just so cool to have that extra level of energy. Like everyone was having fun, not just the people fighting and not just, and even the people who had fought, you know, no one was like still sitting there pouting, except for Joe maybe, but.
no, I had a good time.
No. It was a lot of fun.
Everybody was super happy. Everybody was having a great time.
And then when Jack was deliberating, how did it feel when, like, you know, he hadn't announced the winner yet? You both knew your arguments. What was going through y'all's minds at that moment, like waiting to hear, like, who would the champion be?
We were like literally like whispering to each other, like, it's you got this, like, you won this one, you got me, like, before he announced it. So we still weren't sure. Like, we were both convinced the other one won.
I remember.
Yeah, 100%.
Sorry.
I knew. No, I was just going to say that I 100% knew Kimber won, and I knew exactly why, too. I had all these, like, things in my head, movies that Paul Bettany had been in that would have just, like, established his range as an actor, and I didn't say any of the actual movies. I just talked about, like, the thing they made me think, which was, like, he's got really good range. And I thought about that, and I chatted it, and I was like, oh, I should have mentioned some of the movies that made me think that. And I had, like, a list of at least 5 in my head. I could have just spat out, like, at any moment. And I didn't say any of them. And so I was like, I deserve this loss. This is I get what's coming to me here.
Watching this fight, though, I thought Brian was just managing his time really well. Because I was like, man, he's doing all this, and he hasn't even, like, bulleted off all these movies yet. And then it didn't come, and I'm like, oh, no.
They were in there. I had this list, and I just never got around to mentioning any of them. So...
Well, I'm sitting there thinking I'm about to take the title from the champion. So I just want to make sure, like, when I say why, that it's a legit reason, right? Like, there's no chance for him to go, oh man, like that was some BS, right? Like that your reasoning for taking this from me was crap. Like I knew Brian would never have the sour grapes, but I just didn't want, like, I wanted to make sure, like, I did my due diligence as the judge, and I'm like, but wow, man, I was like, she really kicked his ass, like. I'm definitely giving this to Kimber, right? Like, there's a reason to give it to Kimber. All right, Kimber's going to win this. And then all I was thinking was like, how am I going to announce this and make it fun? You know, and it was so exciting to be able to, like, the room was all quiet and they were all waiting and they just wanted to hear it. And Brian was like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely losing this. You could see it on his face. He's like, okay, I'm about to give the title away. All right, he's definitely giving it to Kimber. Like, because I drew it out just enough that I'm like, yeah, I'm doing. It was so much fun. That was great. I love giving the title away. So
don't love it too much. I just got it.
I love the championship fight in general, but it was really neat. Like, too, like, it was neat to be the best part for me about it was saying, you know, it's Kimber. And then the room just, like, erupts in noise. And I'm like, we never have that. So it was so cool to just hear everyone cheering. And Brian was, like, all cool about it. And you guys were hugging and it's just noise, so much noise. It was really, really cool. So that, I mean, it's my favorite episode because of the crowd. I just loved that. I thought it was so great. So.
Yeah, and I can't overstate how fun and excited I was, like, to hug Kimber and hand her that belt. Like, it made me so happy. So if that came through on screen, that was totally genuine because I was really excited for her. It was so much fun. It was such a good time. So
the cat agrees, apparently.
Yes. The cat is a huge Brian fan.
The cat guy, it's true.
Brian usually wears it like this. But I
one
can
shoulder,
wear it like this.
Oh, look at this.
And she does every day.
And just a note to the fans out there, it doesn't even meet in the back on me. So just in case you were wondering.
Well, that's because Brian, as the card said.
I like that you could hand her the belt too, because I was always wondering, you know, like, is it going to be as cool when Brian's finally fighting someone and maybe they win? He's like, okay, I'll mail you the belt.
Yeah.
You know, shipping you out in a couple weeks here.
He's actually able to, like, hand it to her, which I thought was really cool. So everybody's going to have to fly to Philly if there's going to be a belt match, so that you could always hand it to the other person. That's just the way we're going to have to do it. So no more belt matches unless we're in Philly.
We're gonna make a duplicate belt and keep the original.
No.
Nice.
Some national treasure stuff here.
And Brian, think you can. I was gonna say, I don't know if you think you can match the beautiful hand crafting on that belt. I mean,
yeah, we don't
come
want the other
on,
one to look pretty good.
You signed it too, right, Brian?
Oh,
We
absolutely.
signed the dates of our wins and stuff on back. I think he's referencing that and and the beautiful job he did on the front here.
Which it took me forever to realize that was a YouTube logo. Like I just got it.
Oh, nice.
Looks great.
I don't think I just got. I think I just got it too.
There were a couple of W's that needed covering up on that thing, you know.
I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, everyone. We had a question from Nolan. He wanted to know what would be a dream fighter that we'd want to go up against in the future. So let's start with Raul. I think everybody here's gotten to fight celebrities before, but who would be someone else you'd love to fight?
Non-celebrity, I want to fight Brian. I always have been interested to fight Brian, and also I want to fight Jack. I want to know
if you could beat me like everybody else has. I think you can.
That sounds like an episode that Tom can host.
Yeah, I want to beat Jack as revenge because I have never won. So that will be awesome if I win Jack. So
look, everyone has beaten me, Raul, so it's not really that great of a thing. But you're welcome to join the club.
But it'd be cathartic. That's the point.
Yes, I get it.
Jack, who would you want to fight?
I want to get Will Wheaton. I would love to get Will Wheaton on here. I think he's sort of in the nerd space. I think it would be great to be able to. He'd never do it, but I think it would be fantastic. That would be my dream to get Will Wheaton. But in a realistic sense, Ken Knapsack is my next celebrity desire. So if I can't have Will, Ken, I gotta have you, man. Just saying.
My next celebrity desire. I like that.
Phrasing on that. Or we're not doing phrasing anymore.
Why do we do phrasing anymore?
Brian, what about you? Who would you love to have a shot at?
I mean, I guess we're talking about people, like celebrities or something to get on the show, or maybe not celebrities, pseudo celebrities. Some of the weirder fighters who've been on movie fights, like Roger Barr and Mike Carlson. Some people who get out there with their picks and do something a little bizarre and a little different. I always think that's fun to kind of try to extrapolate the questions a little bit and get a little wild with them. So I think those would be good ones.
Roger,
and I feel like in the sphere, there's almost no one I haven't fought already. I fought a lot. So anybody here who I've gone up against, I would rematch in a second because I feel like I've had so many good fights. So
nice.
And all challengers too. You know what I mean? I got to work my way back up to the top. So.
Roger was on Morgan's show, so that might actually be something we could work out, maybe, because got connections there.
Might be into that.
I think you'd be interested.
And talking about famous, before we go to the next one, the people is asking for it. I would really like a rematch against Mr. Juan Rocha. John Roca.
Yeah, Brian needs to go up against John Roca and have it just be like the battle of the heels. And
oh yeah,
nice. Is Raul a heel? Raul's definitely a face, though.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
Yeah. Raul's the face.
Are we all watching Raw, or just happening to be?
So I was gonna say that out of our group, the person who I haven't got a chance to fight yet, who I would really like to, is Langley.
Yes.
Because I almost did fight Langley, and then it wasn't able to happen because of scheduling issues and stuff. But I think he's a great competitor, and we haven't seen him in a while, and he deserves a chance.
When he gets healthy again, he's back for sure. I think just the health issues are the only reason we haven't seen him.
In the chat too, I'm a big fan of Langley as a fighter. Of Screen Junkies fame, it's Joe Starr for me all the way. Joe is my favorite all day. That's who I would pick. And for real, huge celebrities, if we're getting ridiculous, Benedict Cumberbatch, just so he'll talk.
Oh my God.
Nice. I'll get to work on Cumberbatch right now.
Kimber, I was gonna say Kimber spoiled this Jack's big surprise for the end of the episode.
And guys, special guest. this puppet that looks like
He's been waiting all this
Benedict.
time to he just like comes in.
Straight from the set of Infinity War, where he's there with like Robert Downey Jr. and everyone else.
All of them. What about you, Tom?
All right. Well, I would have to be somebody I'm okay with losing to.
So anyone?
I would love to fight Elijah Wood, because that's how we got introduced to Screen Junkies. We watched the Elijah Wood fight, and then ever since then we just kept watching movie fights. So I really liked, what he had to put on the table. If it was a more realistic goal, though, I would love to do a full comic based fight with Hector and Coy. I think that would be crazy, but that'd be one I would want to win.
For a comic one, Jason Inman would be awesome too.
He's really
Inman would be great. Yeah.
I can tell you who I don't want to fight: Candace.
Yeah.
No. For me,
what happens when Candace goes for the fight for the title bout? Someday?
I mean, that will terrify me. Like, you want to talk about like relationship things? Like, that's one thing to have me and Tom fight each other. We've been together for almost 4 years, but Candace and me have known each other for 13 years. So it's like on a whole different level of like hoping to not just get sucked into like little things we know about each other. Like, it's so much information we have about each other. Like, that's my biggest fear. Plus, she's an amazing competitor. Like, for her to do the show, like, she's probably the smartest person I know. Super charismatic, funny. Like, she's a triple threat, and everyone should watch out for Candace. Like, be afraid.
Cat's afraid.
Yeah, Tiblet's very afraid.
I would love to go up against Langley again, because that was my first fight, and I feel I didn't bring my full muscle to that fight, and I wasn't a very impressive fighter. So I would love to go up against Langley, and I guess Brian, but he's already had his moment in the sun, so he doesn't need to worry about me. That, and yeah, I've gotten a little more accustomed to how I handle things from this point. So I'd love to go up against Langley and, actually bring a challenge.
No, Tiblet, you can't fight anymore. Your picks are bad. I would also love to fight Langley. We've talked back and forth a lot about, we have like a very similar prep style where we like do like all the research that we can. We also know a lot about like theater, because like he was an actor, and like I teach a lot of plays in my English class, so we kind of have like a mutual knowledge base. Apparently Tiblet wants to fight me too. Pick a different movie. Celebrity wise, I would also love to fight Joe Starr, because he is hilarious. Spencer Dan would be great. Like all of the Screen Junkies people would be awesome. I would love to see the Ken versus Jack versus some other person fight. That would be great.
Oh yeah, can we get Ken, guys? I'm fighting that day.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure.
Also a horror fight with Morgan.
Ooh.
Literally with anybody else and Morgan.
Speaking of Morgan, he also asked, can we do our own version of classic film fights? Obviously with me. Not me, Morgan. That was Morgan talking.
Yeah. Sure.
I'd be down for that.
Mm-hmm.
I think, the good thing is I'm old, and so I've seen lots of older movies, so I can judge fairly.
As with the posters in the background.
Yeah. Well, I have, there's The Mummy, and then
there's Zorro right behind your head.
Zorro. And then, I think I have a couple others you can't see, but those are the two oldest ones.
Those are too hot for TV.
Too hot for TV.
Ooh.
I got poster shamed by Hector Navarro for having Pirates of the Caribbean Dead Man's Chest back there, so I switched it, and now it's over here. Yeah.
This is a great suggestion. Ken versus Jack versus Billy Business.
Ooh.
I've spoken to Billy Business, and he might come on sometime, but he's getting married soon. So he said when all of that's out of the way, he might be making a little trip to the living room, I guess, wherever he sits.
All right, and then one last question. We're going to go to our friend that we met in Philly, Bill Cariola, who goes by a handle Coop de Bill. And he wanted to know, like, what theme, guests, or new segment twist would you like to try in the coming year? So if there's any other kind of things that we haven't already mentioned, we'd already talked about celebrities, but any other kind of new elements or new show themes?
I'm always trying to keep the show fresh and entertaining, but I'm also trying to keep the show different. And I think I'm slowly making changes to the show that kind of set us apart from the Screen Junkies version, mostly just because, you know, I don't want to be a direct ripoff of their show. So we're thematically, we're very the same, but I think the new format that we've done has been different. And I think people responded really well to doing a question, doing a speed round. I think people like that, you know, having a format where there's always a mystery fight. So there's just always something surprising happening. So I think like those types of elements are always going to be involved in the show, but if I could tweak it a little bit more and keep it fresh and interesting, you know, that's my goal. You know, I know you guys will come back because you're fans of us and you know, are fans of everything, Screen Junkies too, but I would like to keep you guys entertained and give you something a little different so that you just have another show to like as well that's not the same show.
Yeah, I see Delisha in the chat here talking about like Harry Potter themed fights. Like that could be fun to do, like different genres, or like I guess like different categories for like Harry Potter has a really big universe, stuff like
Star Wars
really big.
Well, I think the only thing you face when you do a theme show is that you attract people who love the theme, and you kind of like, I don't really like this theme. You know, you push away the people who don't, and then the hardcore fans will watch no matter what. So I think, you know, that the only danger of doing like really dialed in shows like that is that you may limit your audience. But you know, the guys in the chat today, they watched every show. They're going to watch every show. So you don't want to discount themes, but you don't want to do too many themes. You want to have a theme show occasionally. So
where was the show advice when we started Ache Panel? That's literally our thing.
Yeah. or you can do, Jack, like a team. Let's say it's a fantasy. You can ask one question on Harry Potter, one question on Lord of the Rings.
Right. Well, see, that works well. Like the space show, I don't know if you guys even realized you were in a theme at that point, but there was a theme where everything had to do with space. But it was all space related questions. I believe Sam complained the most about that episode. But yeah, so I did something like that. And then I had one other theme question show, but I can't remember what it was. But as long as you don't do them all the time. Like if I did, you know, if this was Harry Potter week and then the very next week was, you know, monster fights, you know, and then the next week, I think that could turn off people who aren't necessarily into horror, or, you know, whereas I'm not really into Harry Potter, you know, and some people really don't like Harry Potter. So it could be tough.
It's a balance. I like Raul's idea of like doing something that's like a broad theme, like a horror theme fight would be broad versus like we're only going to talk about, you know, Vincent Price, you know, which would be fun, but you know, maybe some people don't like him. You never know. There's always
that man is a national treasure.
Exactly.
Or like we can do like famous directors. Like I think not even the Screen Junkies had dared to do like a.
Jack don't like no director questions, boy. Don't you know?
Yeah,
I don't want to hear about no directors.
First of all, we're not doing a director anything while I'm around because we all know that that's my Achilles heel. But I would like to do famous erectors because that sounds like a very interesting show. That's how I heard it. I thought with your accent, Raul, I thought you said famous erectors.
No,
no,
Jack.
And I know Sam wants to be a part of the Triple X show. He's been asking me to do it since the beginning, so that might have to happen. Famous erectors.
It would be cool if you had like a reoccurring like genre themed episode and be like the genre gauntlet.
Ooh, that'd be good. But then when I bring up Buffy and no one can answer the question.
Maybe if you ask about the TV series, more people could answer the question.
Hey, I'm just saying. It was the question about the TV series.
I thought it was a movie for some reason. See, and I answered that.
I'm just saying, Kimber, I specifically said to Brian, maybe don't do a director question in my fight with Lon. And then literally am doing a director question in my fight with Lon. So it
was like it's like a genre question, you know? The Coen brothers are their own genre, their own oeuvre of films now. Come on, there's so much to choose from there.
Crud, the guy who did like was it Moonrise Palace and that stuff. He's a Houstonian. I can't remember the guy. Grand Budapest Hotel.
Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson. His movies are a genre unto themselves. They're very Wes.
I think Tarantino movies also another one. It's like they're their own genre of picture now.
It's called Artur Film Theory.
We're not.
I'm not saying that
talk.
Buffy's coming back. I'm not saying that there will be a Buffy question in your future, Kimber, on a title fight. But I would definitely be familiar with Buffy next time.
Of course, if it's gonna be Kimber versus Candace, has to be a Buffy fight.
It's not gonna happen.
All Buffy fight, that would not happen.
You're spiteful, Jack.
Okay, so like no Colin Trevorrow filmography fights is what y'all are saying.
Yes, exactly.
Failing upward every movie. All right, guys, that's all the questions I have. Why don't we go around and plug what we're doing up next? Jack, why don't you start?
Ooh, guys, taking the summer off. If you didn't know already, Fan Friction is on hiatus until sometime late August or early September, where we will return with new celebrity guests, a title fight. We will definitely, Kimber will definitely be putting the belt on the line at some point in our next season. You guys, of course, will be making a return, and if you're watching this and you'd like to be involved, keep an eye on my Twitter, which is JRSPitboy2008, or the TUFF Channel Twitter at TUFF Channel. At TUFF Channel. There was a pause there that didn't need to be there. But we will put details on what to do and how to join and get involved. And we are definitely going to be looking for new fans to sit down and join us, as well as get some newer fans that have joined us recently to come back and fight again. So I look forward to bringing all of that to you sometime late August, early September.
All right. Raul, where can people find you, and what do you have coming up that you want to plug?
You can find me on Twitter on Raul Vader RDC, and the only plan that I have in the future I'm going to Comic-Con in 3 weeks. So
nice.
You can check out my Twitter, all the things that I'm going to do, and then people that I'm going to meet, and also being on TUFF next season if Jackie is bringing me back.
Of course.
All right. Yeah. While you're in San Diego, you should definitely do some periscopes. That way people can like see live footage. That'd be real fun.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. All right, Tom and Kimber.
Sure. You can always catch us on Odd Shape Panel. That is bi-monthly on Mondays every other week. I have an episode coming out in 15 minutes. Morgan's going to be posting it, but we did a top 5 Game of Thrones characters for Purple Dawn Enlightenment Hour. That's going to be out very soon. What do you have going on the channel this week?
This week, not much, but if you want to see what our live schedule's up to, you can always either look at our YouTube channel, which is Odd Shape Channel, or go to oddshapechannel.com, and we usually have everything listed, as well as all of the guest content. So latest Fan Friction, latest BFF, those will be on there if you can't find them on YouTube somehow. You should be able to find them.
And we're both on Twitter at Odd Shape Panel and at Kimberbatch_OSP.
That's true.
Awesome. Are y'all doing any live streams this week for recap shows?
I think we're just Twin Peeps, but then we have a week break between this Twin Peeps and the next Twin Peeps. So if you're into the new Twin Peaks revival, we talk about it every week when it's on. So check us out. And Game of Thrones chat and the Night's Watch is coming too. So
yeah, coming very soon.
It's here pretty much. Winter is here.
No, it's summer.
All right, Brian, what about you?
Australia?
Yeah, you can find me right here on the TUFF Channel. DVD Bunker's still going up. We're trying to get them out every week. Sometimes we stumble. We take a little break. Trying to like the way we do the show, but I'm trying to get some new episodes out too. We did a couple top 10s, got a couple other ideas in the works and things like that to try to keep switching it up and doing some different things. Always bringing you the movies that nobody's asking to see or talk about, so you know where to find that sort of thing. And also, you guys mentioned there's episodes I've been on Horror House Pod. I've been on Movies and Me, Noel and Dean. So we got friends. They got channels. You can find me there and watch their great stuff. I'm on some of them. And the other ones are good too.
Nice. Of course, you can find both of us on Twitter. I am at @_Mrs. Davis.
And I'm at Drake Masters.
You can find our show, BFF. We're kind of on a little hiatus as well, since Fan Friction is on hiatus. But coming in July, we're going to do a special backlog of some of the TV series that have been fought on the show. We're going to start off with Daredevil. We need to finish watching that because we didn't finish it.
Yeah.
But we did promise a long time ago that we would do a review of that show, and then we're going to pick some other shows. Like I know we're going to do Ash versus Evil Dead, and then we're going to probably put up some other polls for what you guys want us to review. So that'll be coming up in July, not necessarily on July 2nd, but starting in the month of July. Once we get things hashed out and figured out, we'll let you guys know what that schedule is.
And we've recently started doing some Let's Plays or live streams and things like that. We just finished The Wolf Among Us. That was pretty interesting. I think we're going to be playing Dead Nation starting tonight,
Cool.
which is a 2-player zombie survival gauntlet style action game. So you can keep an eye out on our Twitters for the links for that. We'll be keeping you guys updated.
But yeah, that's it from us.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'll go back to me. Hey, everybody, that was a great show. So thank you, Joe and Ash, for hosting today. I hope everybody enjoyed Talking Tough. We'll see you guys here on the channel in the next, of course, look for DVD Bunker every week. But we'll see you guys in a couple months for some more fan friction. So thank you, everybody. Have a great summer.